Hey guys, hope you are doing well. I'm Dr. Rashid and you are watching Doctor's Digital College. Here you get lectures on O levels, A levels and FSC. It includes GCE O levels, IGCSE Edexcel and A levels international studies. Hope you will enjoy. Welcome to Doctor's Digital College. In this lecture, we will discuss about the pollination. This is a topic of sexual reproduction in the flowering plants, and this is a prerequisite of the fertilization. In previous lectures, you have studied that fertilization is basically the fusion of male and the female gametes. You know that in case of flowering plants, male and the female gametes are far away, and bringing them close to each other for the process of fertilization is called pollination. Now let's see how is the process of pollination performed. Okay, now we have to study about the pollination. So first of all, you should know that what is meant by the term pollination. Pollination is basically the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. You know that in the previous lecture you have studied that pollen grains, they are produced in the anther, okay, while ovum is produced inside the ovary. So one is pollen grain, one thing is pollen grain and the other thing is ovum. Now these two things have to fuse with each other to form the zygote as a part of sexual reproduction. But you know, these two things are far away from each other. One thing is there in the anther and the other thing is there inside the ovary. So the first thing is to bring them close to each other. Okay, and the process of bringing them close to each other is called pollination. So that's why I have written here, pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. Okay, so pollination can be when the gametes are mature. Only then pollination can occur. You know that immature pollen grains cannot be transferred. In immature pollen grains, they cannot be transferred. Okay, why? Because their structure is not suitable for the transfer process. That's why immature pollen grains are not transferred. Now when they are mature, then they will be transferred. Pollination is basically two types. One is called cross pollination when it is between the two plants, and the other one is called self pollination when it is within the same plant. Now if you look at this diagram, this is here, this is plant 1, this is plant 2, and the two plants are of same species. They are not of different species, because pollination will be successful only if the plants belong to the same species. For example, if there are two different species, say for example, this is the corn and this is hibiscus. If the pollen grains are transferred from here to here, what will happen? There will not be any success. There will not be any fertilization. Okay? So pollination will result in fertilization only if it is within the same plant. So it is called cross pollination if it is between the two plants, from the anther of one to the stigma of other, or from the anther of other to the stigma of one. From the anther of plant 1 to the stigma of plant 2, or from the anther of plant 2 to the stigma of plant 1. Okay. On the other hand, self-pollination is within the same plant. It can be within the same flower, such as you can see in this case that it is coming from anther to the stigma of the same flower. This is stigma, this is anther. From anther to stigma of the same flower, or it can be from anther of one flower to the stigma of the other flower of same plant. You know that this stick is indicating that these two flowers, they are present on the same plant. Okay, so whether it is within the same flower or it is between the different flowers of the same plant, this is called self-pollination. you should be very much clear about the two basic types of the pollination, that is called cross-pollination and self-pollination. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then there are some of the basic points between self-pollination and the cross-pollination. Self-pollination is independent of external factors. No external factor is required. External factors like insects, water, wind, or some birds, they are not required. While here in the case of cross pollination, as two plants can be very much away from each other, one plant is here, another plant is here, and there is a big distance, so there is a need of a vector which will carry the gametes from one plant to the other plant over this big distance. Okay, so cross pollination is dependent on external factors like insects, water, birds, or the wind, while self pollination is independent of. That's why we can say that self pollination is very easy and cross pollination is difficult. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, when the pollination is to be done within the same flower, it will be more successful. While here, as long distances to be covered in case of cross pollination, it will be less successful because there will be the wastage of many pollens. Many pollen grains can be wasted. That's why it is less successful. Okay, as the wastage is less in case of self pollination, so it will save energy, while more energy is required in case of cross pollination. So up till now, if you look at this point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, point number 4, all these are advantages, and here all these are disadvantages. Do you think like this? All these four are the disadvantages, while here all these are the advantages.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the thing is, cross pollination is adopted by most of the modern plants. Although it is having a lot of disadvantages, but it is adopted by most of the modern plants, and this is adopted by less advanced plants, less modern plants, those plants which are less advanced or less modern. Why it is so? Actually, the thing is, in case of self-pollination, less variations are produced. Okay, means the offsprings are more or less similar to their parents. Okay, that's why they will be less adapted. While here in this case, in case of cross-pollination, the offsprings are more different from the parents, so they will be more adapted. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
From parents. Okay, that's why they will be more adapted. So overall, they will have more survival, while here they will have less survival. In case of self-pollination, the offsprings will have less survival. In case of cross-pollination, the offsprings will have more survival. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then the next is we have to study about the cross-pollination in detail. because this is the most adopted process by modern plants. Although some of the plants, they are still doing self-pollination, but most of the modern plants, they have adopted cross-pollination. Okay, now, if we have to study about the cross-pollination, you should repeat it, that cross-pollination is the one which is between two different plants of the same species. Here, as I told, that we need the pollinating agents. External factors are required. The external factors can be wind, it can be insects, it can be birds, or it can be water. Okay? The most important pollinating agents are wind and insect. Birds and the water, they are rarely used. By some of the plants. They are not used by most of the plants. So here we will study that how is wind pollination performed and how is insect pollination performed. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Okay, then if we go towards the adaptive features of the plants for insect pollination and for wind pollination, then we can compare that how are different flowers or different plants adapted for wind pollination and for insect pollination. So first of all, overall flower. What is the nature of the flower? In case of insect pollination, the flowers are large size, they are prominent, they are axial, and they are solitary. You should be clear about all of these words. Large in size, it's very clear, such as, look at this. This flower is large size flower. This is a single flower. Okay, and this is large size, and this is prominent one, mean it can be easily located by the by means of these two characters. It can be easily located. Okay, so insects can locate them easily. So insects are the living sensible agents, so they can locate it on the basis of size and their prominency. The next word is axial, means opposite to the word axial, there is a word called terminal. Okay, some terminal flower is like this, that it is here the flower like this. Okay, and the axial flower is like this. Say for example, this is a shoot, this is another shoot, and the flower is present over here. This is called axial flower, and this is the terminal flower, that this is the shoot, this is another shoot, this is another shoot, and flower is present at the tip of this central shoot. Okay, this is terminal flower, this is axial flower. Axial flower is always hidden between the shoots. If it is hidden between the shoots, it will give a sense of security to insects. Okay. And on the other hand, if the flower is terminal one, then wind can easily encounter the flower. It will not be, the wind will not be hindered by some leaves or some shoots. Wind can easily touch this flower which is there at the tip of any shoot. Okay. Moreover, wind pollinating flowers, they are small size and they are inconspicuous. Inconspicuous mean we cannot easily locate. Insects cannot easily locate, but you know that when the wind will blow, it will touch each and every part. Whether the flower is small or it is big, wind will come in touch with it. If you look at this, this is the bunch of flowers. This is not a single flower. This is one flower. If you look at this, this is one flower. Okay, and these are many flowers. So flowers exist in the form of inflorescence, while here flowers are solitary. Solitary mean single flowers are there. Flowers are not in the form of a bunch. Single flowers are there, while here in this case flowers are in the form of a bunch. Many flowers are there at a time. Why it is so? Because wind pollination is less successful. There is a lot of wastage of the pollen grains. So large number of pollen grains are released at a time by the large number of insects present there. If when many flowers are present, all of them can release their pollen grains at a time, because majority of them will be wasted. Here, as the wastage is less in case of insect pollinating flowers, as less wastage is there, so a single flower can release sufficient amount of the pollen grains, which will be then carried by the insects or some other agents. Okay, I hope that it is clear to you that why should the insect pollinating flowers be large, prominent, axial, and solitary. And on the other hand, why should the wind pollinating flowers be small, inconspicuous, terminal, and in the form of inflorescence. Inflorescence mean when there is a bunch of the flowers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Then the next character is about the petals. That what about the petals? You know that insect pollinating flowers, they have large and prominent petals. As in the previous slide you have seen that this is a large petal. But here in these flowers, petal cannot be seen. We cannot see the petal. Okay, so I have said that petal should be large and prominent one, while in case of wind pollinating flowers there is no need of petals. So the petals are either not present or they are very small and inconspicuous. Inconspicuous mean they are not prominent. Opposite to the word prominent, there is a word inconspicuous. So they like this. Moreover, in case of insect pollinating flowers, these petals will bloom, mean the flower will bloom, petals will be opened like this. This is one petal, this is another petal, this is another petal. So this will be here like this, petals are bloomed. In the case of wind pollinating flowers, petals are not bloomed. They will remain closed. They will not be opened. Okay, so the petals are like this, like this, like this. They are like this. So overall petals are, this is here the petal, and this is, you can see it is not even bloomed. Then petals are brightly colored. In the previous slide you have seen that the petal is such a bright blue color, purplish blue color is there, bright color is there. So is here that, look at this, this is a lilac color, lilac color petal is there, and it is a very beautiful and very prominent colorful petal, while here petals are either mud color or they are green color. They are not very colorful. Okay, moreover, petals are scented in case of insect pollinated flowers. Actually, these scents are the sex attractants. Okay, some flowers have the scent to attract male insects, while other flowers have scents to attract female flowers. So these are basically to attract different genders. Sometimes male insects are attracted, sometimes female insects are attracted, depending upon different kind of scents. Similarly, you might have seen that in case of human, we are using different scents, different perfumes. Male perfumes are different and the female perfumes are different. Towards male perfumes, females are attracted, and towards female perfumes, males are attracted. So is here that flowers have developed different kind of scents to attract different sexes of the insects. While in case of wind pollinating flowers, there are no scents present. Okay. Then in case of insect pollinating flowers, there are nectar guidelines. Say for example, if this is here the petal, on the surface of the petal, there is a guideline. It's like this. This is here a guideline on this petal. This is here a guideline on these petals. These are, look at this. This is here the guideline. So there are guidelines present on the petals. They will guide the insect to move towards the nectaries, because at the base of the flower there are nectaries, and when insects will go towards the base of the flower, they will encounter male and the female parts of the flower. So that's why there are nectar guidelines. This is here nectar guidelines. So as the petals are not even bloomed, not prominent, so there is no sense of any having nectar guidelines. Next is that insect pollinating flowers, they mimic different insects. Okay, mean they will make different shapes. So if you look at this, you might be thinking that it is some insect sitting on the flower, but it is not the insect. This is the shape of the petal. This is not an insect. So they will mimic. Some flowers will make female female insect-like structures, and other flowers will make male insect-like structures. So the females or the males can be attracted towards them. So in this flower, this is the shape of the flower making the mimicry of an insect. This is not an insect actually. So insects is a living and sensible agents. For them, all the attractions are for living thing, while wind is a dead and senseless. Wind is a dead and senseless agent. So for dead and senseless agent, there is no attraction which can be there for some living agent. All these large size, prominent, bloomed, brightly colored, scented, nectar guidelines, mimicries, all these are the attractions for a living and a sensible pollinator. So insects are the living and the sensible ones. That's why all these attractions are there. Hope this is clear to you, that how are petals of insect and wind pollinating flowers adapted for it? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. So if we go to the next, then there is the stamen. Stamen means male reproductive part. Okay. Stamen has three parts. You know that this is here anther and filament. Okay. This is filament. Two parts are there in the stamen. Insect pollinating flowers, they have compact anthers which are there in between the petals. You look at this, this is a compact anther. What is the advantage of having compact anther? That pollen grains cannot be easily released from the anther. Pollen grains will be released only when there is a strong disturbance to the petal by some insect. Okay. On the other hand, in case of wind pollinating flowers, the anthers are very loose and they are pendulous. Pendulous mean they are hanging out of the flower. Look at this. This is the ends of the anther open. This is telling you that it is loose and they are hanging out. So they are like a pendulous. Okay. They are hanging out. Why? So that blowing wind can easily touch it. Okay. And their filaments are very flexible and long so that anther can swing with the flower. On the other hand, filaments are very stiff and they are of different length in case of insect pollinating flowers so that they will remain at their place when some insect will come and touch them so that they will not move. Rather, pollen grains will come out of them and they will get stuck with the body of this insect. Okay, so that's why the filaments are stiff and of different length. Some are at this level, others are at this level, others are at this level. Mean if insect is coming, it will encounter this anther. If this is left, then it can encounter this anther. If this is left, it can encounter this anther, and so on. So they are present at different lengths. On the other hand, here there is no need of having different length. They are all long and they have very flexible filament so that they can swing with the flower. Okay, so these are the characteristics of the male part, the stamen in general. Next, we will see that what are the adaptations of the pollen grains of insect and wind pollinating flower. So if you now look at the pollen grains which are produced by the male part, then the pollen grains of insect pollinating flowers, they are large size, they are sticky, they have rough surface, and they are less in number. So this is one pollen grain. Okay, you can see that its surface is very rough. So rough surface will give easy entangling. It can entangle with the body of insect very easily. Okay, and moreover it's sticky. Large size, if it will be very small size, it can slip away from the parts of insect. So large size can easily stuck. It can easily stuck in between the different body parts of insect. On the other hand, wind pollinating flowers, they have their pollen grains which are very small size and they are lightweight. Okay, they are also dry. They are dry so that they will not clump up. They will not be agglutinated. They will not make a ball-like structure which will fall down. And they have their smooth surface. This is the pollen grain. You can see that it has very smooth surface as compared to these pollen grains which are not having smooth surface. And they are huge in number. Look at this. This is the dust of pollens. Okay, the dust of pollens is in such a way that huge number of pollen grains are released because majority of them will be wasted. That's why they are produced like a dust. And they may have air sacs. Look at this. This is the air sac. So the air sac will give float or buoyancy. This is for the purpose of float or buoyancy to the pollen grains so that pollen grains can easily float or they can fly away along with the wind. Okay, so this is the difference of the pollen grains of insect pollinating flowers and the wind pollinating flowers. Hope this is clear to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Then next is the female reproductive part, that is carpel. Okay. Now if you look at this, the female reproductive part or the carpel, it has compact stigma, and the stigma is sticky and it is mostly inverted down. Inverted mean the stigma is like this. This is here inverted stigma. Okay, and its style is stiff. Look at this. This is very compact stigma. Okay, on the other hand, wind pollinating flowers, they have very loose and feathery and dry and pendulous stigma. Look at this. This is here the stigma. And you can see that this is very much feathery, like a very loose feather it is. So it is forming a web-like structure into which the pollen grains can be entangled very easily. Coming along with the wind, they can be entangled very easily. Moreover, its style is very flexible and long so that it can swing with the flower. This pendulous stigma, it can swing along with the flower. Okay. On the other hand, it should be stiff, just like that of stamen, that in anthers are stiff and its filament is stiff. Anthers are compact, filament is stiff. So is here that the stigma is stiff, stigma is compact, and the style is stiff, so that when insect will touch with it, it will remain at its place. It will not easily remove away. So you can see its surface is very much sticky. So it will easily catch the pollen grains from the body of the insect. Okay. So these are the adaptive features of the female reproductive part of insect and wind pollinating flower. Is this clear to you? That why is stigma compact, why it is sticky, why it is inverted, why the style is stiff. The inverted stigma can rub with the back of insect. Okay, when insect will move over here, it will rub with the back of insect easily. Okay, so that it can receive stigma, it can receive pollen grains from the back of insect. Is that okay?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is all about the characteristics, which are the adaptations for insect pollinating flowers and the wind pollinating flowers. Okay. And our next topic is the fertilization, that how is fertilization done and what happens after the fertilization. Okay. I hope that this is clear to you. How is some flower adapted for insect pollination and how is some flower adapted for wind pollination.
I hope this topic is clear to you. Now let's practice some of the past paper questions. It includes MCQs and theory questions.
In this question, let's see that how is the concept of pollination explained. In plant reproduction, the following processes occur. Number 1, fertilization. Number 2, growth of a pollen tube. Number 3, pollination. And number 4, seed germination. You know that seed will germinate only when the seed is formed, and that is after all the processes of growth of the ovule and the seed. First of all, pollination will occur, and then from the pollination there will be the growth of the pollen tube, and then fertilization will occur, and then seed will germinate. So 3, 2, 1, 4 should be the sequence. So the answer for this question should be 3, 2, 1, 4. Mean first of all pollination, then growth of the pollen tube, then fertilization, and then seed germination. Okay. And let's see in the next question, which statement correctly describes advantages or disadvantages of the self-pollination of a plant? A option is it needs a lot of pollen. Yeah, in self-pollination there is a need of there is not the need of a lot of pollens, there is the need of less pollen grains. Okay, and but can happen when a plant is on its own, mean it does not need any external factor. Okay, so it needs a lot of pollens. This is not correct. This part of the statement is not correct. This part of the statement is correct. Okay, it needs little pollens. Yes, it needs little pollens, but there is a single high chance of the pollination. Yes, but there is a high chance of the pollination because self-pollination is not dependent on external factors. So there is a high chance of the pollination. Less pollen grains are needed because there will be less wastage of the pollen grains. So answer for this question should be B. Let's see how is C wrong. It needs no agent. Yeah, it is correct to transfer the pollens, but pollination is unlikely. No, this is wrong thing. Pollination is likely to occur. D is it needs two plants. No, it does not need two plants. When self-pollination is occurring, two plants are not needed. So you can see that A, C and D, all these statements, they have certain flaws in them. Only statement B is correct. So the correct answer for this question will be B. A plant has flowers whose anthers mature and fall off before the stigma is fully developed. It's more likely that the male gametes will mature earlier and the female gametes will mature later because the stigma is fully developed. Before the stigma is fully developed, anther will be developed. So what will this prevent? This will prevent self-pollination because male and the female gametes, they are maturing at different time. So the prevention will be of self-pollination, means self-pollination cannot occur. Cross-pollination can occur. This is cross-pollination, this is cross-pollination, and this is cross-pollination. So self-pollination will not be occurring in this case. Okay. Then next is, which statement describes the self-pollination? You know that in case of self-pollination, two plants are not required. So this is wrong and this is wrong. Only this is correct and this is correct. So B or D option are correct. Then transfer of the pollens is from anther to stigma or from stigma to anther. So stigma to anther is a wrong thing. Anther to stigma is the correct thing. So answer should be B for this question. Okay. Which plants are most likely to adapt successfully to a climate change in their environment? Okay, you know that more variations are there, then they will be adapted to the climatic changes. Plants that are cross-pollinated, yes, they are having more variations. Plants that do not rely on wind pollination, means this will be the self-pollination. Okay, plants that grow rapidly, no, it has nothing to do with to produce variations. Plants that reproduce asexually, no, asexually reproducing plants will be identical or the clones of each other. So the plants that are cross-pollinated, they will have more variations, so they will be adapted to the climatic changes. So the answer for this question should be A. Okay. Now this is the theory question. In this question you see that figure 1.1 shows sections through two different flowers A and B that are found on the same plant. One flower is the male and the other flower is female. You can see that this is here anther. Okay, so this is the male flower and this is here stigma and ovary. So this is the female flower. Okay, then what is the question? Let's see. The question is, state the method of pollination in this plant and give two reasons for your answer. You can see that in this flower, anthers are present in one flower and the stigma is present in the other flower. So the most likely thing is that there will be cross pollination. Okay. Moreover, you can see this is the petal and this is a very big petal. Okay, and this is also bloomed. Petal is not only big but it is also bloomed. So we can say that there will be cross pollination. or slash you can write here, it can be insect pollination. Okay, and the reasons are that they are male and female gametes on different flowers. Okay, and the second thing is that it has big and bloomed petals. Big petals are there and bloomed petals are there. So these two are the reasons. Now next question is, state two other possible features not visible in figure 1.1. You have to write the figure features which are not visible, that are likely to be present in these flowers. You can see that when there is insect pollination, there is more likely to be colored petals. Petals should be colored, and one thing more is that they should be scented. Okay, there can be nectaries present. So these are the three features which should be present in insect pollinating flowers. So I will write here answers. The colored petals, and scented petals. Okay, so this should be the answer for this question. Now the next is, in figure 1.1a shows a flower very shortly after it has opened, and figure 1.1b shows the same flower when it is several days older. You can see that in 1.1a anthers are present, but if you look at this is stigma, and the stigma is immature. So here in this case, this is stigma is mature, but at this time when stigma is mature and it is likely to receive the pollen grains, these anthers are dried. So the most likely feature is that male gametes mature earlier than the female gametes. Okay, moreover, this is here insect sitting on it. So let's see what's the question. The question is, state two features of the flower in 1.1a that could have attracted the insect. Now let's see what are the features. You can see that this is here a nectary. Nectary could have attracted it, and this is big petal. Big petal could have attracted this flower. So I will write here nectaries and big petals. Nectaries will produce a sweet for the insect, and the big petals will provide a platform to sit there. Okay. Now the next is using information in figure 1.1a and figure 1.1b, explain why flowers of this plant are rarely self-pollinated. Now you can see that in figure 1.1a shows early maturation of anthers, and thus male gametes when stigma is not mature to receive pollen grains, while figure 1.1b shows that when stigma is mature to receive pollens, anthers are dried and pollens are not likely to be available. So, cross-pollination is likely to occur. So this should be the answer for this. You have to give the reasons, means you have to explain it with the reasons. Okay. Now the next is suggest how the insect brings about pollination in these species of the plants. So we will write here that insects visit such flowers to suck sweet from nectaries and narrow passage of petals and inverted anthers rub with the back of insect, shedding pollen grains on insect. When same insect visits another such flower, whose stigma is mature, cross-pollination is likely to occur. Okay, so this should be the answer, that insects visit such flowers to suck the sweet from the nectaries, and the narrow passage of the petals and inverted anthers rub with the back of insect, shedding pollen grains on the insects. When same insect visits another such flower whose stigma is mature, cross-pollination is likely to occur. Okay, so I hope that these such questions are clear to you and the answers are clear to you and the concept of pollination is clear to you.